Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Angel of Words podcast, where your stories are heard. I am your host, Angel of Words. And before we get started, don't forget to punch that like button, subscribe, follow us on all podcast platforms, follow us on our website, and grab the merch at www.aowent.com. You could also leave a donation via Cash App at AOWNYC. Now, on deck on the Angel of Words podcast, we have a project manager who works in construction, and her name is the Haitian sensation, Christina LaPierre. Miss LaPierre, thank you for joining us today here on the Angel of Words podcast.
Absolutely.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Happy to be here.
Oh my God, Christina, you are a unicorn. It's been a theme this year, this season on the Angel of Words podcast. You know, there's less than 10 or roughly 10% of women that are working in construction. How did you land in that field? We need to know this.
Yes, absolutely. So I grew up around it. My father was a kind of jack of all trades, doing a lot of things around the house, built an addition that I was very hands-on with and always wanting to help him, wanting to learn. And I always kind of knew that I wanted to be in this realm of the business. I thought I wanted to be an architect, actually. So early on, I decided that I would go to school for architecture. I did about a year and a half of that, and I kind of was like, no, I don't really like the designy thing. I'm more of a hands-on person. I like to see things get built, and I changed my major to construction management.
Was that devastating to your parents?
No, because I mean they always had good faith in my tenacity to kind of do what I need to do. I put myself through college. It was kind of one of those things. So it was. Are you sure? Yes. Yeah. Okay. And it worked out. So I'm happy about it. But I lost time obviously with college. I had to stay longer. But I changed my major. I did well. I graduated, and I moved to New York, and that was kind of one of those things that I took a chance.
So where'd you move to New York from?
Boston.
Oh my
Boston
God!
Originally.
It's literally the most racist city in the world.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, what was that like, man?
I was in a school. So okay, speaking about 10% of women in construction, my class was 99% white male. So not only was I one of the few women in the class, but I was one of the few black women in the class. Yeah. So that was a pressure on its own, obviously, to excel and do my best. But still now, to this day, I am one of the black women in construction. I don't see a lot of my sisters out there with me. Yeah. I see a few. And when I do, we have those moments power to you, girl. But in general, it is a very male-dominated industry. Yeah. And, I feel like I have stepped into the shoes of a male-dominated industry, and I've fulfilled it pretty well so far. So I'm, happy to be in construction, happy to talk about it. I love it. I come home and think of construction. I go to sleep, think of construction. So
also, you're passionate about it.
Of course, absolutely. My friends that I, talk to a lot, they're into construction too, and hopefully I'll get into development and start flipping houses, and like one of your past interviewees, and I want to do a lot in it. So.
Now, Christina, I mean, being around, all those males and, coming up in that, that male-dominated situation, does it impact your femininity at all?
I was a tomboy growing up, so I feel like I do have femininity, but I don't have that much to begin with. So, I mean, when I want to go into that mode, I can. Yeah. But I feel like I've always had kind of a rough, edgy type of demeanor anyways. I'm not soft-spoken. So, yeah, I mean, I've never had problems with that. I mean, my mom's like, how did you do your hair? And I'm like, Mom, I'm going to a construction office. I don't care about my hair when I'm going to work. But, it's things like that. I do bring a certain aspect of femininity to it. But for the most part, when I go to the field, I'm in work pants, boots, and, work gear. So it's not like I can be that uber feminine anyways, so...
It's not one of those things that you expect to, when you go, people expect people to get all dolled up before they go to work.
Yeah, not me.
Yeah.
Not I do when I'm in the office.
Yeah.
I do tend to do that, but sometimes when I feel like it. But most of the time, I just want to get the work done.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at a desk. I'm doing a lot of paperwork, and when I get to be in the field, I'm rugged. So.
Now, Christina, as a project manager, I would imagine that you're collaborating with engineers, with architects, with people on the front lines. Who's the most annoying?
Architects, definitely. But yeah, no, with my job, my main primary focus is working with architects, engineers, the owners, on a day-to-day basis. I mean, the architect is one of the people that I have to communicate with very frequently. Usually in my business, I would have an APM, someone under me doing a lot of paperwork. I had one. I had to let him go, unfortunately. But so I'm stepping up into those shoes right now and doing a lot of the paperwork. So with that, I have to talk to the architect a lot, go back and forth with those things, and it is tedious. But when I do get a break from that, I get to go to the field and be a part of.
What's the source of the annoyance with the architect,
I mean, they want stuff done a certain way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can't be done that way. Yeah. And,
for price purposes, or it's just not available?
Design. It's usually a design thing.
Okay.
When it comes to architects, it's design. Okay. Their primary focus is whatever they envisioned, they want to see it in the building.
Yeah, come to fruition.
Exactly. And sometimes those things just can't be done. Okay. And sometimes we don't include them. Like with our kind of work, we bid a job. We say the job costs this much, and we bid it on a certain set of parameters.
Yeah. And you're sending out those bids, right? You're actually making those proposals.
Yes. We are GC. So the company I work for, we're GCs and we're developers. So we develop our own properties, and we also work for other people to build properties, and usually affordable housing. That's our main focus. And usually what we do is we work with subcontractors, electricians, plumbers. We don't do any of the work ourselves.
Okay, so that's what subcontractors are. People that go in and do the meticulous detailing of the way a building operates.
No, they're not that meticulous, and that's where I come from. I gotta make sure they're meticulous. I'm a hand holder, okay? I'm a glorified babysitter. I have to chase people every day for what they need to complete. And I have supers in the job that run the day-to-day field activities. Yeah. And they really do the leg work, but I have to be behind scenes making sure that the paperwork is done and that these guys are still doing what they need to do. And it's a tedious job, but it's very rewarding, and I've learned a lot since I've started it. So it's amazing.
Wow. That sounds nuts, man.
It is. I talked to my electrician yesterday maybe 10 times.
Wow.
10 times about everything from permits to intercoms to 10 different times. We had 10 different conversations. So it's one of those things, like you can have those relationships with certain subs where you're always on the phone with them, you're always talking to them, you see them in the field, and you're always kind of making sure that they're on point with what they're doing, what they have to do, because there's schedules, there's budgets, and I have to maintain those, and I have to keep within those parameters. So, but yeah, architects are the most annoying though, because at the end of the day, if they don't get something they want, they're gonna make your life a living hell no matter what. And
wow, and these are all men you're shouting orders at, man. How do they feel when they got a female yelling at them? Not that many dudes. I don't mind women yelling at me. You know what I mean? I have 3 sisters, a mom, mad female cousins. Like, I'm used to that. I don't like men barking orders at me.
I mean, yeah, no, listen, it's empowering to be able to own who I am and to be able to do the job that I do. I feel like I am respected by my peers. I feel like they will yell back at me. They're not afraid to yell back at me. I've gotten into yelling matches tons of times. So, it's good to be able to feel like you're on the same level playing field with someone. So, they respect me. And after they have maybe yelled at me or we've had our disagreements, they'll come back and they'll forgive them, apologize and whatever. So it's one of those things. But I don't think anybody's been like, you're a woman, don't talk to me that way. No one's ever said anything like that to me. But well,
that's encouraging, for any female
absolutely.
that wants to get in that business, that that never even thought about a career in that path. It's good to know that you're treating each other as human beings.
We are, yeah. And I feel that there are always going to be those individuals that are, not the best people on earth, but we can't control that. And we, as women, I think we just have to work. And we've been always a strong circle of people, but we have to work to keep our emotions at bay. And that's a challenge for a woman like myself, because I am an emotional person. Yeah. But, at the same time...
Are you a Cancer?
I'm a Pisces.
Oh.
But, and we are very... So sometimes there are moments where I'm just like, oh, I want to just fucking... bang someone's head against the wall. I want to yell. I want to do, and we gotta kind of put those emotions down to get the job done. And I've had to do that many times.
And where do you find the fortitude? The fact that you don't want to lose your job?
I mean, the fact that I care enough that I have to do that, because it's like, this is something that's not just a job for me. It's my career. It's my livelihood. It's what I've always wanted to do. So I know that in some aspect, I have to control whatever kind of emotions I may have, because at the end of the day, this is my life I'm talking about. Like, I want to continue with this business. I don't want people to know me as something different than what I am. Yeah. So for me, I'm always gonna keep my emotions in check. And
gotcha. You don't want to ruin your brand.
Exactly, my brand. I'm a brand, and I want people to know me for what the work I can accomplish. So.
Got you. Now, you also got to deal with building codes and legal stuff and safety, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
God, how tedious is that? And, how to the letter do you have to be, honestly? Because especially now with the pandemic, how has that affected this whole situation?
The pandemic was a hurdle for sure, and still is. I mean, we... we're lucky, and as far as my company and as a construction company, we were lucky because we do build affordable housing, and that was an essential. We were considered essential workers, whereas other developers and GCs who build luxury housing, that's like.
And GCs, what, general contractor?
General contractor.
Okay.
So other GCs that just do mostly high-end residential, their job sites got closed for more than probably weeks and months. I don't know the real ramifications, but a lot of jobs got shut down. And that's a lot of money. It's a lot of overhead. And your permits all are on a set time. You have 24 months. You have, 2 years to do this work. And now you have COVID slowing down your job and slowing down materials, slowing down everything in reality. And it was a hassle, and we had to take certain extra precautions, extra hand sanitizer, everything. Just whatever you see out there that they were saying, we had to implement in the field.
And you're on the front lines making sure that all this stuff is getting delivered, I would imagine.
Well, so at the time, at early COVID, I had an assistant, and I mean, their job is to mostly help aid me in whatever I need to get done. And the guys on the field are really taking the initiative to organize, making sure the toilets are there, making sure they're clean, making sure, they're supposed to do that. That's the field expenses, field equipment, field things. So
which all gets budgeted in.
And all gets budgeted in, and all has to be maintained by me. So I sign the invoices at the end of the day. I make sure that they come in. I okay them to get paid.
God, that's a ton of invoices, man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, luckily we utilize project management software that allows us to do all of this stuff kind of on the computer, and it's very helpful keeping everything together. But yeah, no, in general, it was a lot of extra precautions to take, more than you normally would. Safety is a number one precaution that it's the Bible when it comes to construction sites. Safety is the number one priority. Even before COVID, safety is a number one priority. After COVID, it just made it extra,
wow,
extra precautions. So
And on those legal construction sites, because I know there's some illegal construction sites going on.
Yeah. Probably. Absolutely.
Yeah. But on the the legal ones that are being ran the right way, like, is everybody insured? I guess everybody has to be insured in some way, shape, or form, right?
Absolutely. At my company, we have a compliance department that just goes over insurance, goes over safety, goes over. Everybody has their OSHA cards. Everybody has workman's comp and all those things. Yes, we absolutely check that to the T. And it. We get sued. People get injured. It happens, and it's construction. It's something that. That's why you prepare and you have people with insurance on your sites, because when you don't, all the liability goes on your shoulders as a GC. So, yeah, it's one of those things that has to be done if you want your ass to be covered.
Yeah, no, you got to make sure that's happening. Now, you guys are running the proper standards for everybody. Now, Christina, man, you're making these bids and you're writing proposals, right? Now, how does a bid work, man? Let's say I own the construction company, because I hear a lot of these things like, people are paying people under the table to take a bid that they're not supposed to be taking.
There's a lot of that.
And like, do people bid, right? And these are secret bids sometimes, or are they public bids?
It depends. How does that work? It depends on the project. Okay. A lot of the projects we do at my company are people that we've worked with in the past, different developers we worked with in the past. So we have that relationship. We can, say, well, how much the job needs to be? Okay, you want it to be a $30 million project. We'll do the budget. We'll figure it out. And, it's usually a contract deal like that. Some projects are bid projects where you have to mail in a private bid. It has to be, done at a certain time. If you don't mail it in by 3:00 on that day, your bid gets thrown out. Like, there's bids like that. We don't normally do. We do some of that, but the owner of my company likes to work with people he's worked with before. And he's been very, affluent in doing that, mending and keeping those relationships and working with people he's worked with before. So, but when we do go out to bid, there could be 10, 20 bidders, and they all have to put together a price. And we don't know what the other guy bid until the day they open the bid. And when they open it, they list it all together, and usually they look at the lowest guy. And sometimes the lowest guy isn't the best guy.
I mean, yeah, that's what I would imagine. Like, you could really undercut somebody, but, you get what you pay for sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Especially in construction.
It happens all the time. Bidders go in super low to get the job. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the day, they're calling us or someone else.
So that happens, like, really? So that happens where, like, somebody, they'll take a bidder and then they're trash. For lack of a better word,
they miss something in the bid, or they could just severely underbid it, so they don't have the money to man the job. Anything, it could be anything. Yeah, and that happens sometimes.
Does it happen a lot with government bids? Have you ever done any government bids?
We have.
And any of the places you worked at?
I have done government bids. We never got the jobs, and it's because we bid higher than some of the other, bidders. But we've heard the stories. We didn't necessarily get called to help, but we heard the story of the struggle, of what's happening, and that happens a lot. We actually did a project in Sugar Hill, and that was a project where they had maybe 3 GCs before us. 3 different GCs that couldn't do the job.
So 3 people have tried and failed, and they had to come in with the real deal Holyfield. And
finish building the project.
Oh my God.
It was before my time at the company, but
that must be such a waste of money.
It was, and it was a very expensive project to build, and there was a lot of trauma with that project. But even by the time I got to the company, we were still doing work for the project, like still doing the paperwork, because the paperwork doesn't end the moment the project's done. It's like it goes past that. So, it's one of those things that sometimes you do something, you're like, damn, I should have just probably never did that project, because we're still kind of going through it. But at the end of the day, it worked out. It was a very impressive project. I won't say which one it was, but it was in the papers. It was a very famous architect that designed it. So it was good to have on our roster of,
on your resume
jobs that we did. So
yeah.
At the end of the day, but there's a lot of legal ramifications with being in construction. It's a big business. That's why there's you hear on the news all the time. Even like sometimes when you switch on to the Spanish station, they're like talking about if you need a lawyer for construction industry accidents. Like you hear it.
Yeah, no, all day, every day, man. Celino and Barnes, you must hate them,
So they're doing their job because listen, people get injured and someone has to advocate for them. That goes without saying, but. There are paper chasers out there that are looking for just money, and it happens. But that's why you protect yourself and you have insured people on your job site at all times.
And you got to weed those people out, right? You ever look for people like, yo, this guy is sus, right?
Well,
this lady's sus, right?
We do. It's a good thing to have people checking safety at all times, because when you see someone that's acting a certain way or not being safe, you constantly have to tell them, put your hard hat on or wear a harness or do whatever. There's something up with this person. They're, like, for me, they're looking for something because it's simple. Protect yourself. If you don't want to be injured, protect yourself. And sometimes you got to remind people about that. And for me, I'm like, I go to the site with my hard hat on every time. Like, I am not getting injured. Wow. I need to be here to work. So, yeah.
No, and I'm going to be honest, that's a lot of the reason why, doing some reading, that a lot of private companies don't want government being involved in infrastructure and construction projects. And, Biden wants to pass a $2.9 trillion infrastructure package, but nobody has faith in government to handle big money like that because they always try to look, historically they've looked for the cheaper route. And when you just telling me that people, you did a project that 3 people failed at, and then they have to bring the big guns in, you're just wasting more tax money.
Well, luckily that was a private project, but since it is affordable housing, there is governmental agencies involved. So
I would imagine, right?
Yes, there are governmental agencies involved. There's funding that comes from governmental agencies to build affordable housing. So there is a strict kind of overview process when it comes to that. They have their own project managers. Someone like me who's like checking our budgets, checking what we're charging for, overseeing really the construction project in a whole to make sure that, the GC is not trying to take advantage of the owner or vice versa, because there's a lot of corruption that can be had in construction.
Have you ever seen some?
I've never seen some firsthand, with my eyes.
Have you ever heard the whispers?
There's whispers all the time. Everybody whispers about.
Tell us about
stuff.
The whispers.
Everybody whispers about.
We
that
love
stuff.
the whispers.
No, there's always certain people that you see that they benefit for certain things that happen on the job sites. It might be material. It might be, things like that. You see it on jobs. But.
And what's the cost? I mean, let's be honest, though. Like, using cheaper materials, Christina, what happens? Since you're in this field, like, why that's not a good idea?
Well, to be honest, it's when you work in my industry where you have governmental funding, we can't skimp out. There's no real way to do that because we have to submit what we're going to use. So, for instance, if I want to use regular white tile, but the architect wants freaking Carrera marble tile, I can't just go put white tile on the job. They want to see a sample of the Carrera white tile. They want to see that you ordered the Carrera white tile.
They want proof.
They want proof. So you don't really get to circumvent and use cheaper materials. Like, people try to use stuff that they're not supposed to, and that's our job to make sure that they're using what they're, the guys on the field are supposed to be checking, make sure that the material that they say they're supposed to use is the material that they're using. On private, like, low type of construction, when someone buys something and just want to build it themselves, they don't have anybody really watching them. They could put the cheapest of the cheap, and they still have to follow the rules and regulations, because they'll never get a certificate of occupancy if they can't pass a building inspection. But people do cheap out on materials, and at the end of the day, cheap materials are always gonna give out sooner than better materials. That's with anything. If you buy a cheap watch, it's gonna break soon. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Sooner or later,
you know, with anything. So that's a common thing. You know.
God, must be so much. You got to be so meticulous, and that's so tedious, man.
Dude, every aspect, and I'm talking about talking about building inspections. Like, every little thing is something that needs to be looked at. So from making sure you do all the fireproofing, fire stopping, making sure that you're building the walls the right way so that it's code for sound transmission and for fire protection. There's
sound transmission?
Yeah, so that when you knock on a wall, you don't hear your neighbor. Like,
really?
There's things even to that.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, so there's a lot of aspects and certain ways to do things, like, you know, how finishes are applied. They all matter in the grand scheme of things, and people are looking for those things. And if you don't do it right, they tell you, okay, well, your inspection failed and you have to do a re-inspection. And every time you got to make it right before you can go to the next level. So, for instance, like, I can't get to the next level of putting my jib board up until we pass all those insulation and fire stopping inspections. So I'm held up on a certain aspect of I can't move forward and start doing like finishes, plastering, anything without those inspections going off first. So,
oh man, so get it right the first time for
that's
real.
That's the goal, is to get it right.
And is it, you know, because I hear a lot of, you know, I don't know much about this business. That's why you're here, but like, you know, I hear that people like they try to like fugaze that in some way and pay people off and things of that nature, inspectors and things like that.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely people that do that. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we don't.
Yeah.
We have to do everything by the book. So it's like, I wouldn't know that aspect of how they get by with that, because at the end of the day, it's your investment. Like, say if I'm the builder, I'm the person buying the property, and it's going to be my development, and I'm going to rent these units out. I want my future tenants to be safe. I want to make sure that I built this building to the best standards, to all the standards correctly, so that there's no fire because of an electrical, you know,
malfunction,
conduit running the wrong, whatever it could be. You know what I mean? So it's like, you gotta do the right steps.
I think that's why you need women in construction, because they care.
Because we care, and we
you know, it's that maternal instinct that a man will never have.
Make sure everybody's safe, everybody's good. Absolutely.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Not just about the bottom line. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that it's something that lasts to test of time. So,
well, man. You know, there's one. Okay, so the it's 10% of women in construction, right? But in the entire workforce in the country, it's 1.5%. Unicorn on deck. How did it make you feel when you hear a stat like that? Like, I made it in a business nobody does.
That's a very impressive stat, especially if you think. I mean, I don't know how much of the world is, you know, women.
Yeah,
but I know there's a lot of us.
That is like 27,000 of y'all. You want 27,000? That's crazy.
Out of just in general, women in the whole world. If we're talking about United States of America, how many women are in the United States?
I don't know that right now offhand,
but I'll tell you,
it's over 100 million.
There's a lot of us. So to hear a percentage, you know, like that, it's you know, there's a lot of women in the world. So we got to get out there. We got to get working. That's all. And I know we are. We're trying, and we're getting up there, and we're holding high positions of power nowadays. And I'm very impressed to be a woman right now in these times, because we are making the strides that we need to make. So
you are making the strides that you need to make, but you're still not getting paid equal wages. 81.1, on the dollar. But in construction, though, it's a whopping 99.1. You're almost even with your male counterparts in construction. So. Look at who would have thought a job that everybody thinks is sexist and filled with a bunch of misogynists because they're whistling at women on the.
Well, there's still a lot of that going on,
But at least they do pay you almost as equal as they do the men, you know.
That's a great percentage. I mean, as a woman, I always had my doubts about that. Like, do I get the same pay as a male
You
counterpart?
do think about that.
I do think about that.
Okay.
But at the same time, I know what I get paid, and I respect what I get paid. I feel like that's exactly what I deserve at this time. And I'm 33 years old, and I've been in this business for maybe 6 years now, and I feel like I've made great leaps for someone my age.
Yeah.
To just basically come to New York. I didn't get to tell you that story, but I basically got here.
Now, yeah.
I got here to New York off of an email, like a straight email. Like, I graduated from college. I had no money, negative in my bank account, negative. I was like, dude, I got to do something. The company I was working with before, because I was working with a construction company in Massachusetts, and they were making me offers saying that they're going to make me an offer. We're going to get you an offer.
It's like a promise ring.
It's like it never came, and it was taking so long to come. And I'm like, what's the, and it was a smaller business, smaller company. And I took the chance. My cousin, luckily, she's also a strong black female in construction industry. And I was able to reach out to her and ask her for a mentor. I said, hey, can I at least talk to someone I could maybe have on the back burner to give me advice on what I should do? Not just family, because family's going to do that for you regardless. But at the end of the day, I can't ask her to get me a job, I got to make my own way. So she gave me an email for someone. I emailed that person, and that person said, can you come in for an interview? Like, just for that. And she ends up being very sporadic like that in real life. But she asked me if I could come. I said yes, drove that 4 hours, came straight down, interviewed. Didn't hear back from her for 2 weeks. But I tell everybody, if you ever go on an interview, follow up. Write that follow-up email. Say the thank you, I loved meeting you, whatever. Do that, because you never know. And I could have not done that, and she forgot about me. But I did it. And
really? Because they teach you in interview courses to send the follow-up. I'm like, who cares? If you don't have me then and there, I don't care about that.
Dude, talk about it. If I hadn't sent that follow-up email, who knows? She could have just moved on to other things, interviewed other people, and it could have just went, and I could have lost that opportunity. But I literally I followed up with her, wrote her in the email, said I really loved meeting you. I want to work with you, whatever you need. And she emailed me back, can you start on Sunday?
Get out of Dodge.
And what I started doing was working for her and doing FEMA relief, because it was Hurricane Sandy had just happened. Okay. So I started doing home inspections. And
so that's when you started here doing home inspections for FEMA.
Yeah, for the whole issue with the people on Long Island that lost their houses, or they needed to get their houses raised to be over the water. I was going out there doing home inspections and really just working in a convention center, almost with all these people working 12-hour days, but the money was so good, dude. I was making $50 an hour. You
can say that out loud,
$50 an hour. It was the craziest money for coming out.
You had no chicken, and then you coming back and you making $50 an hour.
Coming out of college to make $50 an hour.
And you must have gone to a good college, though. I mean, you went to school in Boston. There's not a lot of white colleges out there.
No, I did. I went to Wentworth Institute of Technology. Nice. Power to my leopards over there. It was a very hands-on education, which I really enjoyed, and I would recommend that university to anybody. And it was a great learning experience. I wasn't the best student. I didn't have the best grades. I'll be honest with that, but I had the determination to keep going, and it got me to where I am. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
And you were doing good work, man. I mean, it's you're getting paid, but you're doing an awesome public service because you're helping people get their cribs back.
And yeah, I mean, and that was a very interesting and taxing job at the same time, because it was very emotional, at that time to see that, to be in those people's houses and to see the damage, we weren't able to maintain that contract. So I ended up having to leave that position and go into estimating, which is a different facet of construction.
What do you do there?
Estimating is basically when you take the job, all the plans of the job, and you figure out you have this much square feet of tile, this much square feet of wood floor, this much square feet of drywall, and you put a number to it. And at the end of the day, you say, this project is $30 million. So I was doing that for a while, and I ended up meeting my current employer through my previous employer, and they wanted me, and they took me from
So they headhunted you. They said, yo,
she
Christina,
got a little fire.
join the dark side. You know, it's great that you have a Star Wars T-shirt on.
Yeah.
So apropos.
Yeah, no, but no, she got a finder's fee from me, from basically sending me.
Oh, they blessed her with some bread.
I'm sure they did. At the end of the day, but I ended up coming into their company and started off as an assistant project manager, and then they saw my worth and they upped me to a project manager, and I've been.
That was relatively quick, girl. What you was doing, man? Damn.
I was doing a job of someone who was much older than me, and doing it better than he was. They gave me his position basically, and he was a super nice guy, but he just didn't have the construction. He didn't have what he needed to have to be in construction. And
that passion, man.
They let him
You look
go.
so passionate about it, man. God, I love it, man.
I am. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like I've really fought to get here. I mean, I've had a lot of personal things in my life that I had to fight through. So, when you reached out to me, I was like, why not? Like, nobody's talking about women in construction that much. So it's like, I mean, people talk about it, but I don't know if it's on the forefront as much. And I'm like, people ask me about what I do sometimes, and I give them a brief little spiel about it, but they don't get to hear the full capacity.
Do they even seem interested though when you tell them, "Mom"? Because I mean, when you told me, like, I don't, obviously, like when we met was like, at like random locations with OD distractions, or at work where like I'm already miserable because I don't want to be there. You know what I'm saying? It's like
I know. We were always in.
I always remembered. I'm like, this girl works with construction. That's fucking interesting. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it usually does become like a topic of conversation, but it's a quick one because we in the club, or we're at work, or we're drinking, whatever. Yeah. So it's like, well, what do you do? Construction? Okay, what is that about? You give them a brief synopsis.
I wish I would have taken the time to speak more about it with you.
We're doing it now.
It happened now.
So that's awesome. So you reaching out to me, I was like, a podcast. I'm like, I think I made a joke that I hate my voice or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, I do want to talk about what I do because I do love what I do. And I do love giving people the opportunity to live in better, housing. Because housing in New York City is a big issue. There's a lot of homeless people. There's a lot of people, women who might have been abused or living in shelter. There's a lot of that. And there's so much property and space that we can build up to make housing for these people. There should not be any homeless people in New York City. There shouldn't be. There's like so many buildings. Like why? know? And it's cold here. People are on the street. It's not a good thing. So I'm very proud to do the affordable housing thing. Obviously, we are for profit, so it's not like we're non-for-profit. We are for profit, and it matters what we make from the deal, but it also matters that we are providing that service.
And who's funding that though? The government?
It could be a multitude of funders. You can have,
so it could be like private not private loaners, but like people that are just
banks,
giving
private banks,
private banks,
and a lot of non-for-profit agencies do work with GCs, and they get funding from HPD, different government agencies. And that funding provides the sources for them to be able to build these buildings. And as a GC, we're the workforce. We do it. But as developers, we're also providing that space because we do build our own buildings for seniors and affordable housing.
Oh, that's fantastic. And it's so crazy because we're going to do a podcast on seniors. But, I heard a really disconcerting story the other day that there's a lot of seniors that are living on people's couches. And I'm like, man, like with all the long-term managed care programs here in the city, like I don't feel like there should be a senior or a homeless person out here. Like, this is crazy.
And that's the point. It's like, my first project with the company was a senior building. in Mount Vernon. And I didn't start that project from the ground up. It was already kind of maybe on the 3rd or 4th floor by the time I got. It was like a 10-story building.
Another one gone wrong.
Yeah, no, it was an okay project. It had its things, but every project does. But no, it was a great project. It was one of our buildings that we owned, so there was more, what you say, like more tenacity to do it right and to follow up and to make sure it was done correctly, because it's like this is our baby. We own this. This is one of the buildings that we have on our walls as a we built this building type thing.
Nice.
So
like your platinum plaque.
Yeah. So I was very proud to be in that project, and it was a nice building. It turned out beautiful, and a lot of senior people live in that building, and they I think they love living there. Hopefully,
that's fantastic. You must feel so rewarded, man.
I do. I mean, I feel rewarded anytime I step on the field, because I always wanted to be in construction. So just stepping on a field to be in construction is just a reward in itself. It's fun every day. Every time I go to the field, it goes like that. Like, I'm in the office, I'm like, damn, why is it not 5 yet? Like, the time took so slow. But when I'm in the field, it's like, I get there at 9 or 8:30. By the time I look up, it's 1:30. I'm like, how did the time go by so fast? And it's just because there's so much to look at. There's so much to think about. There's people asking me questions.
And that's your favorite part.
I love that part. I would love, if I had it my way, I would be in the field 60% of the time and be in the office 40%.
Well, you know what that means. You got to own your own spot. And, and talking about ownership, Christina, the stats are that, here we go. 13% of the construction firms that are out right now are owned by women.
I believe that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, like, and that's, exponential from in the last 5 years.
I've dealt with a lot of women subcontractors, women-owned businesses. I think my flooring, my tile guy, tile woman, it's a woman-owned business. There's a lot of incentives.
Yeah.
In New York State, there's, I don't know if it's everywhere, but in New York State, there's something called MWBE, Minority Women Business Enterprise. And you can file for that. And in getting that certification to say you're a woman's business enterprise or you're a minority woman business, for me, if I get that credit, I automatically get the chance to bid on jobs, because they have to give a certain percentage out when you're talking about public, when you get funding from state agencies. Yeah. They have to give a certain percentage out, 10% WBE, 15% MWBE. So if you have a $30 million contract, $1.5 million or $3 million is going to a WBE. You have to spend $1.5 million or $3 million on a WBE.
That's fire.
Yeah. So it's an incentive that they get, so that more women businesses, more minority businesses owners can go out there and have a real shot at building something. So hopefully one day I'll have my own MWBE.
Is that something you've thought about, though, like owning your own firm, your own development firm?
I mean, even if I just consider myself a consultant,
Okay.
I could do that now. I could start a business and say I'm a consultant and just have them pay my business instead of paying me.
Yeah.
I could do it that way. But right now it's working out to where
Is it your youth? Like, is it because you're young in this business and, that you may not want to take those steps? Is that something that's holding you back, do you think?
I don't know if that's what's holding me back. I know that sometimes you get comfortable. So, I just bought a house, so I'm just like, I'm trying to eat.
The house must be bomb, by the way.
No. Listen, I had to move in a rush.
Yo, for real. Whoever marries you got it good. Don't got to worry about none of that stuff. Jesus,
well, that's
Christmas.
true. That's true. But the truth of the matter is, the house has its things. The house has its things. It has its quirks. It's an old house, but hopefully when I have more money to put towards it, I will.
Well, you don't want to go ham buying stuff for the crib right away.
Nah. I mean, I want to redo the floors, the kitchen. I want to redo things in the house. But it's like, luckily I have a lot of expertise and I have subcontractors that I can contact to help me do the work. Obviously, I have to pay them, but but at the end of the day,
or give them a nice little bid. You know?
But at the end of the day, I do have an upper leg because a lot of homeowners, they don't know who to contact to get bids. They get prices from anybody.
Yeah, the first person they find on Google search.
And they could be completely horrible and take your money. It's happened to my mom tons of times. Like, you know, but at the end of the day, like, I do have that upper hand where I can help myself by knowing an electrician, a plumber, you know, and those kind of things.
Well, I'm definitely glad you came on the podcast. You know what I mean?
Listen,
that's another resource.
People have benefited from my connections. Let's just put it that way. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, you know, Miss LaPierre, we've reached the point in the podcast where it's time to play 5 Words with Angel. Now, on 5 Words with Angel Christina, I'm going to say a word, phrase, or a question. You're going to give me the first thought that comes to your head. Are you ready?
Okay, yes.
Here we go. The first word is hard hat.
Safety.
Okay. The second word is gravel.
Gravel. The first thing that comes to my mind is... I mean, gravel's gravel. Asphalt.
All right, cool. The third word is blueprints.
Blueprints, estimating. Yeah.
Is that annoying?
It's not, no.
Okay.
Because when you say blueprints, it takes me back to the days of my estimating days.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I had to be looking at those things very strenuously. So yes, go ahead.
Got you. The fourth word is woman in construction.
Powerful.
Nice.
Powerful.
And then the last one is a curveball, a little bit of a curveball.
Okay.
Christina LaPierre.
Independent.
Nice. And that was 5 Words with Angel, people. Now, Christina, blueprints, man. What's the deal with that? Like when you're looking at a blueprint, like how are you involved with that? Like, you know, how does that help you or do your job, or like how, you know, why are those made? Why is it important to the process?
So it's funny, they don't really call them blueprints anymore.
What do they call them?
The blueprints was the early stages because they used to draw plans on this literal paper that was like carbon type paper. So that's why they called them, and the paper was like often like a darker color, so the print would come out blue. So
Gotcha.
that's why they call it blueprints, but they're really called like just plans now. Like we just call them plans.
Really?
And
Shorten the name? God, that's not fun.
Yeah,
there were so many albums called Blueprint.
Yes. Well, it's the, you know, it's still a kind of emphasis about the thing, because the blueprint is the plans to get you to where you need to be.
Gotcha.
So, but yes, I do have to look at plans on a daily basis. I'm looking at plans all the time, and with architecturals, like I have to look at every plan, from architectural, mechanical, electrical. Even though I'm not that well versed on mechanical components, I still have to know I have to understand the bare minimum of what's involved with, you know.
You have to have a general knowledge
of
Gotcha.
what it is. So, you know, because there's a lot of facets to it. So I do review a lot of plans on a daily basis. With architectural plans, I mean, there could be a certain way the architect wants the tile floor to lay, you know, a certain pattern that they show.
Wow, that's
they
so
show
detailed.
They show those kind of details on the drawings, usually with notes, or you have a lot of meetings in the field and you discuss those kind of things. But the plans are the basis. You can tell from the plans that, okay, you're supposed to have an inlay detail on the tile floor. You know, you wouldn't know that unless they have a little sketch on the plans that show you that there's a different tile in the middle. And then on the border, it's one other color. So those kind of things you pick up on the drawings and the plans. I mean, I kind of, when you said blueprints, I rolled my eyes because it is very tedious and time consuming, and a lot of details can be missed because there's so much to read. There's so much to look at. So if you're not really good at plan reading, you know, it's something that go take a class on, because if you feel like you don't feel comfortable with understanding what every symbol means or whatever, go take a class, because it's, if you need to do your job right, you need to know what are on the plans, and it is a lot of information and it takes time. That's why it's like, oh God, this again.
You're like, I'm glad I'm past that.
Yeah, but you're the truth of the matter, you're never past it. You're always gonna have to look at plans, and there's also a book we call specifications. It's like, it could be this big, and it has every detail of what.
Wow, it's like a Bible.
It's like a Bible. And if you don't read that thing front and back, which I just recently learned because we going through something, but I had recently learned that I was supposed to do something as part of the project that we didn't know we had to do, and it was in the specifications. And it's like, oh, you got to do this thing, and I'm like, damn, like, I need to read the specs better.
Well, I mean, that's good that you still get to learn, though. I mean, you know, and you don't mind practicing what you're doing right now. That's the perfect beauty of it.
Is something else. You learn something new, and
that's beautiful. It's challenging.
It's challenging, and that's why some days there could be a slow day where there's not a lot going on, but there's still a lot to learn. Reading the specs, like now, after my little mishap with this recent thing, I'm going to read more specs. Like, I'm going to spend more time going through the specifications. And I'll tell you, the book is like this, no joke.
Yo, that is thick, man. Damn.
Like, no joke.
It's like Moby Dick
it's
times
like,
3.
I got to take my highlighter and go through it to make sure that by the end of the job, I'm not missing something that I was supposed to do ahead of time.
And that's just laying on your desk somewhere?
It's right. I got like an L-shaped desk where I have my plans. I have a little set of my plans here, and then the book is here, and I flip-flop and move them around. My desk is chaotic right now.
Oh, my God.
It's organized chaos. It's it's organized. If people would look at my desk, they're like, damn, this girl is a mess. It is crazy. But
how do you keep it all together?
I mean, I keep my separate piles for things, but I usually don't like paper. Like, I try to not use paper that much. I do everything on PDF, and like even if I have to sign something, I sign it on PDF.
Yeah,
like I don't print shit out. But other people in my company are still kind of old school, so they print stuff out, and with that, it adds paper, and I get so busy with other things that I'll put a paper aside, and then this is staying on that file, that top little thing for like, I don't know, weeks. And that paper might have been on my computer already, so I don't even look at the paper anymore. The paper's on my computer.
And what's that dynamic like, right? With the increase in technology and old school values, like meshing those two together, because you're smack dab 33, so you can relate to old schoolers, but you got to let them know, baby, it's time to stop being a dinosaur. Like, let's get it together.
My direct boss, the guy I work directly under, he is gotta be in his 80s, about to be in his 80s. Super smart guy. I've learned so much from him, but he's super old school. Like, he writes his emails with one finger. Like, he's old school. Like, and he's
80. That's okay.
He prints out his emails and puts them into folders. It's like that. So it's it's old school. It's a certain way that he does things. Yeah. Super organized. Yeah. Like, his desk is clean. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. His desk is clean. He got folders. Everything is where they're supposed to be. But, he'll give me paper that I just don't need. Like, I don't need you to print this out to tell me. Forward it in the email. Send me an email about it. No. But, so it's just, with that, there's no way to change that.
No, but he's 80 though. I'm talking about like the 50-year-olds, the 40, 50 demographic, the 30 demographic. Like, don't give me that you 38 talking about you old school, my man. Like, stop it.
No,
bro.
Some of the people that are in their, late 30s, early 40s, mid 50s, they are a little bit better.
Okay. With
the computers and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, everybody's gonna do stuff their own way. Okay. So I'm gonna do stuff different than other people might do stuff. So for me, I value doing everything on the computer, Dropbox, having files set up. I don't like to do that much paper, but if you look at my desk, you'd be like, I thought you said you don't like paper. Yeah. I have folders and papers.
Probably not even coming from you though, those papers.
Most of the time they're not. They're not. But it's like, at the end of the day, the paper is still a pretty dominant thing in the construction industry right now. You're going to always need paper. So Invest in paper. Invest in paper
Dunder
stocks.
Mifflin, baby. You already know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Christina, the unicorn of construction that has blessed us with her presence on the Angels of Words podcast. We want to, could you give a message out there to the young lady that's like, whoa, I didn't even know construction was that, was that dope? Because, maybe they have a little bit more testosterone than the average lady. And they want to do something a little bit more physically challenging.
There's women that are building buildings.
Yeah.
They're not just me sitting behind a desk. Like, there's women that are picking up tools, that are doing trade work. Yeah. And more power to you women, because you guys are really powerful. And the only advice I would give to women is, stand your ground, work for what you believe in, what you are passionate about, and, keep doing you. At the end of the day, they're going to respect you when you show that you can be on the same level as them. Like, end of story. Like, and just on another note, because I feel irresponsible for not putting a brother on, because my significant other is big into cryptocurrency. If you ever talk to anybody about cryptocurrency, let me know, because he's very passionate about it if you ever want to talk to him about it. But we're very big on crypto.
Got you. We'll discuss that off the air.
Talk about it. It's a money maker. I want my people around me to make money. So
Got you. Well, everyone, that was Miss Christina LaPierre dropping knowledge and about to drop some more knowledge. The knowledge doesn't stop here on the Angel of Words podcast. And everyone, don't forget to subscribe, punch on that notification bell, follow us on all podcast platforms. Check us out on the website. Grab your merch at www.aowent.com. Donations, if you want to leave one, is at Cash App AOWNYC. Catch me on all my social medias at Angel of Words ENT. And thank you for tuning in, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.